The Titans are reportedly signing center Lloyd Cushenberry, formerly of the Denver Broncos, to shore up the interior of that offensive line. We're going to react to what this signing means for the Titans. This is the Music City Audible. Let's get to it. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Music City Audible podcast, our second one of the morning here, presented by Broadway Sports Media and 440 Sports. A reminder, this episode is brought to you by Sinkers Beverages in East Nashville and Bluegrass Beverages in Hendersonville. I'm Justin Graver. With me, as always, Justin Melo. We got another signing, Justin, two within the first couple hours of the legal tampering period window opening. This one was kind of weird because it was like, first, Paul Kaharski tweets out, before the tampering period even starts, the Titans are going to be pursuing Lloyd Cushenberry. Then Benjamin Albright, who has been on this podcast before, super plugged into the Broncos beat up there in Denver, says Lloyd Cushenberry is going to have suitors led by the Titans. And then we got a few reports that the Titans were closing in on a deal. Now, as we sit here recording this, it is 2:23 p.m. Central Time. We still don't have numbers, so we could have got this pod up maybe an hour or two ago, but we were waiting. We were like, all right, let's just hold off on this one for a little bit. Let's see what the contract numbers are. We don't even have terms like how many years the contract is, let alone how much money it is. But that doesn't mean we can't talk about what Lloyd Cushenberry brings to the Titans. So, Justin, let's start there. On our free agency preview podcast, we said, go get Andre James or Lloyd Cushenberry. Well, I think it was Sunday evening, Andre James re-signed with the Raiders, taking himself off the market. Mitch Morse signed with the Jaguars on Sunday, taking another big free agent center name off the market. But the Titans get arguably the top guy at this position in this free agent class. What does it mean, Justin?
Well, I think he's certainly the top guy in the class. Non-debatable, in my opinion, after Andre James didn't even reach the market, right? Having re-signed with the Raiders, we thought he might be a target, but he didn't get there. They did the best job they possibly could, getting Lloyd Cushenberry at, I think, the top-ranked center on the market. The first thing that jumps out at me, you might have seen this stat already on Twitter, but Cushenberry ranked third in pass protection last year. This is according to Warren Sharp. Brewer ranks 27th in the same metric. Aaron Brewer, that is no surprise, right? Cushenberry allowed just 14 pressures last year. That was second fewest among all centers that appeared in at least 15 games, whereas Brewer allowed 20 pressures more than that, 34 in total, which ranked 35 of 37 qualifying centers in that same metric. I mean, that's a huge difference. We saw Aaron Brewer struggle all year long in pass protection. And we had a pretty good feeling, you and I, we've said it on the pod time and time again, that the Titans were going to prioritize pass protection when upgrading the offensive line in free agency. Why? Because Brian Callahan wants to install a pass-happier offense than this team has been, and he wants to surround Will Levis with all the tools possible to appropriately install that pass-happy offense. You can't find really in this market a better pass protecting center than Lloyd Cushenberry. So this is one hell of a deal that really lines up with the vision that Coach Callahan and offensive coordinator Nick Holtz has for this team. And this isn't a one-off, by the way. Few have analyzed Lloyd Cushenberry throughout these past 4 seasons. He just, his 4-year rookie deal just expired in Denver. He's consistently been really good in pass protection. This is not a new development in a contract year. No, it is the strong suit of his game. The Titans knew that going into free agency. They knew what they wanted, and they went out and got it done. So this is a signing that makes a lot of sense for the sort of the makeover of the offense that we're about to witness.
Yeah, exactly. And you mentioned, the season he had last year compared to Aaron Brewer. Cushenberry, over the last 2 seasons combined, has allowed just 2 sacks and only 16 total pressures. Wow. You mentioned he was third in PFF's pass blocking grade. He allowed pressure on 2.3% of snaps last year on dropbacks last year. That was 5th best amongst 35 centers. He has been just a rock solid guy in the middle of that unit for the Broncos the last few years, and now he comes to Tennessee. And I think, you nailed it there with what this means for the Titans moving to a pass-happier offense. He also had a pretty good run blocking grade according to PFF. It wasn't elite, but it was top 15 for centers, again, out of 35 centers. And combined with what he does as a pass protector, I think you'll take that any day of the week. Huge upgrade over Aaron Brewer. No offense to Aaron Brewer. Hardworking guy, tough guy, but just frankly not big and not strong enough to really anchor an offensive line that's going to be a great unit in the NFL. He can anchor, the worst offensive line in football last year for the Titans like he did.
Jesus.
But to anchor what you hope is a much improved offensive line, Lloyd Cushenberry is a great fit for that. This is a huge first step in rebuilding the offensive line. Now, there have been reports already that the Titans are going to be in on Michael Onwenu. We don't know if he's going to be slotted to play right guard or right tackle, or if the Titans will even win whatever bidding war may emerge for him. I've been very vocal that I think the Titans should go after Tyron Smith. We discussed the possibility of signing Mekhi Becton and the reports that the Titans are interested there. So I don't think this is the only offensive line move the Titans will make. It is the first one that they have made, and arguably the most important given their draft status, because obviously center is maybe not as important a position as tackle, but the idea that if you don't get one of these free agent tackles, you could draft, Joe Alt or Olaf Ashanu at 7 overall, assuming those two guys make it to 7. So it's not the end of the world if they don't sign a tackle in free agency here. It's not the end of the world, but it would have been pretty bad if they hadn't been able to sign a high quality center, because then you're talking about spending a second rounder or a fourth rounder on one of these centers in this draft, hoping one of those guys that, there's going to be a lot of quality centers in this draft class, but hoping that one of those guys slides to you, and then using sort of a premium pick on that position when you have so many holes. Lloyd Cushenberry fills that need.
And then on top of it, I can't imagine, it's never a good idea in the National Football League to draft a center in the 4th round and then ask him to start right away. Right? You're asking for problems if you do that. Again, this is one of those moves. I think when Mike Vrabel was fired, it was pretty obvious they'd be moving on from Aaron Brewer, who really was a Mike Vrabel guy through and through. Right. Cushenberry checks a lot of boxes for them. And by the way, one of the things I found very interesting, I would quiz you, but I think you'd know the answer anyway. His offensive line coach for his first 2 seasons in Denver, Titans great Mike Munchak, right, for those first 2 years with the Broncos, immediately helped develop him into a quality player. And then maybe this is neither here nor there, but I always find these things interesting. Coach Justin Otten was on the Broncos staff in 2022 and saw Lloyd Cushenberry there up close and personal. Now, Otten's the tight ends coach here in Tennessee now, but he does have a background coaching offensive linemen, so he's very familiar with that part, and he's been an offensive coordinator, so he's very familiar with that part of the game and how that works. And what about for Lloyd Cushenberry? Can you imagine entering your 5th season in the pros and having been coached by Mike Munchak and Bill Callahan at the how many guys can say that entering year 5 that you've been coached by 2 of the best position coaches in the history of the game? And I bet old Bill Callahan is really, really excited about getting his hands on Lloyd Cushenberry. This is a great move for the Titans.
Yeah, only 26 years old, so that's he's a guy that could be the center here. Now, we don't know how, again, nothing reported on the contract. I wish we could talk about the contract right now. We're going to have to wait and do that later this week. Probably we'll do a full episode talking about all the signings, and we'll definitely get into the contract here because we'll have it eventually. But what's interesting is this kind of reminds me of Ben Jones. Now, Ben Jones was a little bit older when he signed in Tennessee than Lloyd Cushenberry is now, but he was a guy who had his rookie contract with another team, I believe the Texans, and maybe even a second contract already with another team, and then signed with the Titans and stayed in Tennessee until he retired, right? I could see Lloyd Cushenberry, if the Titans are happy with him, this is a guy you want to keep around until the end of his contract, until the end of his career, and keep him in Nashville, and then you never have to worry about finding your next center, until 10 years from now, which I think would be an ideal situation. So exciting signing. I think this is the most excited the fan base could possibly be for signing an offensive lineman, especially a center.
Center,
try hyping up this fan base over signing a center 10 years ago, and I don't think we're in the same position we are now. But we're all smarter as football fans. We realize the importance of that anchor in the middle of the line, tying the whole unit together. And like you said, Bill Callahan, we've talked about a lot about this. Bill Callahan working with subpar talent versus Bill Callahan working with elite talent, and able to get the most out of those guys that have elite talent as opposed to just coaching up guys that maybe have less talent. I think this is a great pairing because you're confident you're going to get the most out of this signing. It's not going to be like, who was the guard the Titans signed the first year under Wisenhunt, I believe, that they signed to.
Was it Andy Levitre?
Andy Levitre, who they signed to a huge deal, and he sort of never played well for the Titans at all. I don't think you have to worry about that as long as Bill Callahan is the offensive line coach. Even with guys like Mekhi Becton, if they end up going that direction, I think injury, yes, you always have to worry about. But as far as living up to a certain standard, I think Bill Callahan's going to get the most out of them. So all in on Lloyd Cushenberry. Anything else you want to say about the center position here?
No, I just think I agree with you that you hope, you never know in this league how guys are going to perform when they go through a change of scenery. But I do think the Titans will have legitimate hope here that they have found a long-term solution at the position for the next, 4 to 6 seasons. Essentially, I think that's the goal with this signing, and maybe most importantly, short lifespan in the NFL. It makes them better right now. It makes them better in 2024. It's going to help Coach Callahan, Brian Callahan, head coach, that is, and offensive coordinator Nick Holtz install their offense. And they're going to feel a bit comfortable. They're going to sleep a little easier at night, I think, as they go through that process, knowing they've got one of the best pass protecting centers in the league. So definitely a home run signing for the Titans as of right now.
Right. And again, we'll wait on the contract details and talk more about that on a future podcast. But that'll do it for this one. We will be reacting to all the signings as they come out. There's reports that the Titans are going to be in on Chidobe Awuzie, which would be a huge signing. We've talked about how we love the fit with Awuzie and the Titans. We talked about that on our free agency preview pod. We talked about that on our ideal offseason pod even a couple of weeks ago. So we'll stay tuned for that. And it's even more important now than it was yesterday because Sean Murphy-Bunting has signed with the Cardinals, so he will not be returning to Tennessee. So that's a name to keep an eye on as we head into the second half of this first day of free agency legal tampering period. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. A reminder, this episode is brought to you by Sinkers Beverages in East Nashville and Bluegrass Beverages in Hendersonville. Head on over and stock up on your favorite beer, your favorite liquor, and get ready to celebrate what could be an awesome Titans season so far with the first 2 signings that we have.
I mean, Lloyd Cushenberry is going to have to find out where to grab a good drink when he gets to Nashville. So he's going to head over to Sinkers Beverage and walk into that walkout. That beer fridge they have is outstanding. I mean, as a beer drinker myself, a connoisseur, I'd like to say, that's always my go-to spot to grab a drink in Nashville. So shout out to Sinkers. Lloyd, if you need to know where to grab a drink, you now know where you can find a good one in Nashville. That's exactly right. Sinkers voted best liquor store in Nashville 2 years in a row. Bluegrass been serving the local community for over 50 years. Just celebrated their 50th anniversary last year. So these are landmark places to get your beverages in the community. Make sure you check them out. And thanks again for tuning in. Subscribe to the channel, the Music City Audible podcast. We're going to be reacting to every free agent signing as they come in. So get ready, be subscribed, make sure you have notifications on so you get an alert whenever we post our reaction podcast. But until the next one, y'all stay safe out there and tighten up.
A Broadway sports media production.